This is Darius Oliver with Divine Numerology. Thanks for tuning in, everybody. Today is Friday, 3 in the evening, and we got some really nice things lined up for you guys today. We have MLK's birthday chart, Martin Luther King's birthday chart. Today we're going to be talking about that. We got Jessica Gillenwater, special guest. We're going to be talking about our time that we spent today at Art Break Day and how that went and what people are interested in. It was an awesome event. We are going to talk to you about it as soon as we get back. So don't go nowhere. We'll be right back. Hello, so we're right back with Divine Numerology. This is Darius Oliver, and today we're going to be talking about Michael King Jr. I bet some of you don't know who that is. That's actually Martin Luther King's original name. Yep, that's his birth name. So I did a little contest on Facebook, and out of 5 people, I said, who would you like to see a numerology reading done for? And out of the 5 that I had given as an option, Martin Luther King was the one who won. And in studying his chart, I found a lot of interesting things. For instance, the first thing is the fact that his first name was Michael, and he actually had no middle name. Just Michael King Jr. And it was at the age of 5 that his father actually changed his name, because his father was inspired by Martin Luther. And so that's what led to his father changing the name of his son and of himself. With Martin Luther King, some of the first really interesting things that we see is that he has a life path 1. So he has a life path 1. For those of you who are a little bit new to numerology, a 1 life path is dealing with confidence and creativity. It's a person that's here to learn how to stand up for themselves, stand up in themselves, and to embrace risks and challenges as they come and as they appear. The one who is to take the lead. That's his life path 1. And some other people who have that life path are Steve Jobs has a life path 1. George Lucas is also a life path 1 individual. And they all have that one thing in common, is that they tend to start things that leave legacies. Martin Luther King was born on the 15th. And the 15, 1 and 5 gives us the number 6. So from the 15 itself, we have the 1, which is confidence and creativity, focused on 5, which is freedom and discipline, which gives us the 6, balance. And this is a balance when it comes to his freedom. And here we go. We were talking about the leader of the civil rights. 6 is about balance. So he was bringing a balance to the civil unrest that occurred at his time. He's born on the 15th. Coincidentally, but really not coincidentally, his first name equals 6. He is born on his full name equals 3 as an expression, and for his full name we have the 3, but his full name comes from the number 66. His first name equals 6, but it comes from the number 33. So we have some repeating double digits right there. We have and when we come across double digits, those are called master numbers. These are numbers that carry a much larger, more powerful frequency, but at the same time, they have an incredible amounts and loads of responsibility that they have to carry out if they choose to accept those roles. And we can see, based on his life, the type of life that he lived, the amount of people that he affected and impacted. As his first name being a 33, 33 is the number of the master teacher. And as his full entire name equaling 66, that has to do with incredible amounts of love taken to the higher levels and expressed in such a way that is in a balanced, harmonious way, because that's the essence of 6. Having in mind that every number has a positive and a negative aspect to it. So with his full name being 66, it would give him the attributes of a person that is, very loving, very caring, nurturing, but it also has extremes of a person dealing with hatred at times, whether it comes from the self or comes from outside. And the time that he actually lived in, he definitely had to deal with a lot of that. The way that his role of impacted people, that's the number we call the performance number. This is the combination of the life path plus the full name. And when we mix those two together, we get a performance number 4, which is process and stability. And he was able to create process and stability. But here's where we find something really interesting, because his 4 that comes from his performance number is coming out of the number 22. Here we have another repeating master number. We see a lot of master numbers in this man's chart. Just foretelling from the get-go, if I were to have met Martin Luther King when he was 3 years old, his numbers would have said the same exact thing. When it comes to numerology, the numbers don't change. They stay the same as long as your name stays the same. And even the name that even though he changed his name from Michael to Martin, even though his father changed his name, the original life lessons that he was supposed to learn still vibrated with him. And that's the thing with numerology, is the original name you have vibrates with you all your life. The name that you take on, if you change it, affects the way that you interact with your immediate surroundings. It gives you further energies to work with. But looking at his performance number, it's a 4, but it's coming from the 22. 22 is the master builder, the one who's here to create a legacy. Literally, the 22 does that. It's here to create legacies. The 66 is the love, harmonious vibration, bringing things into a balance and adjustment. 33 is the ability to reach and tap into the needs of mankind. Jesus was 33 when he died. So Martin Luther King had, looking a little bit further down, a 6 soul urge. So for those of you who don't know what a soul urge is a number that brings a person an immense amount of satisfaction once they carry out the thing that is indicated by that. So in this case, the number 6. We see so many 6s in this man's chart. He's born on the 15th, which equals 6. First name equals 33, which equals 6. His full name, his entire full name equals 66. Soul urge is 6. Coming from the number 24. 24 is the number of, it's 2, which is others, cooperation, balance, working with teams, networking with groups. The 2 with the 4. 4 is organizations, clubs, social structures, regimentation, anything that leads itself to systematic expression on this planet, on this earth, anything that's of a material nature. 24 is said to be one of the managerial numbers. That was his soul urge. And look at what he did. He led the Million Man March. He managed it. And this was at a time when we didn't have Facebook, we didn't have Instagram, we didn't have social media to get the news out. A Million Man March. And one thing that it's noted for is the fact that there was no violence that ensued. And he took a lot from, according to what my research, he took much from his learning from Gandhi, as far as to not do any harm unto others. There was respecting the golden rule. That was huge in his message. Respecting the golden rule. He has a secondary soul urge of 7, which is truth, the truth seeker. This is one expression of the 7. 7 can be expressed in scientific ways. In his case, it was holding to his firm ideals. It also indicates that if had we spoken to him at that time, he actually had a relatively private, he valued his privacy. Here was a man who loved family, because it's the 6 soul urge. 6 loves family, 6 loves people, 6 loves animals, life in general. And then 7 is very private and wants its seclusion, wants its alone time to recharge. Very cerebral, very mental in his thought processes. Deep thinker, someone who looks it's also known as the dreamer. I have a dream speech. His nature number, which is the personality number. This is the way that a person presents themselves, the way that they would prefer to be understood or to come off, the way that they would like people to see them. It's a 6. His secondary secondary personality number is a 7. So here we have again a 6, and another 7. So we find these patterns in this man's chart. 6, and we find 7s, and then we find a 3, 1, and a 4. What is so significant about this 6? Well, one really interesting thing is that all these 6s that we see in this man's chart, in Martin Luther King's chart, I took a look at his full name at birth, and there's these things called missing numbers, and some of us call them voids, some of us call them missing letters, some of us call them missing numbers. But what it essentially means is when you're missing a letter in your name that is represented by a particular numerical energy. In this case, he didn't have any F's, as in Frank, O's, or X's in his name. That gave him a 6 void. He had every other number in his chart in his name except for the number 6. And yet it appears so many times on the other places in his chart. The funny thing about it is, now for the listeners out there, this is what I'm talking about significant things happening on the days of your birth that resonate with the number of your birth. For instance, if you're born on the 6th, 15th, or the 24th, it would be useful to use the days of the 6th, 15th, and 24th in your planning. Now, I don't know if he planned this. It's it would be a little bit interesting to say, but he graduated at age 15 from high school, and he's born on the 15th. Another 6 vibration. We see so many of these characteristics. We see so many of these similarities are reoccurring in the chart. When I take a look at his main challenge in his life, we also get a 6. So what does all this mean? What does all this mean? This vibration for him really speaks to him bringing harmony and balance on the planet, that which he was here to do. The only missing numerical energy in his name, in his original name, was the 6. That numerical energy created a vacuum for him to fill. And he did that in the lives of the people that were living at that time. And it affected not just the people who were living at that time, but it's affected the lives of all of us down to this day. It's brought love, harmony, and balance in a lot of our relations, how we view and perceive each other. This is the impact that he's had with this. It's amazing just taking a look at someone's chart when they're doing these big things in their life, because you will again and again and again see repeating similarities. Another thing of note is when I took a look at what are called pinnacles. So to the listeners, to you guys out there, our pinnacles are spans of time that vary according to person, and they indicate points in our lifetime when we'll experience a big shift in our life. So had I met Martin Luther King when he was 12, 15, like I said earlier, all these numbers would have been the same. It indicated that his first big life shift would take place at age 35. Funny thing about that is he got the Nobel Peace Prize at age 35. That's so amazing. When I saw this, I was just like, oh my gosh, it's just right there. It's all right there. It's just on paper. not just that, but his pinnacle also revealed that for his first 35 years of life, he would be going through an incredibly difficult time. Not just from environment, of course, from the times he was living in, because of the civil rights structure that being brought to the fore at that time, the way things were in his day. But his first pinnacle reveals a 16/7 pinnacle. This is an incredibly karmic number. It's very potent. Now, 16 can be a number that belongs to difficult events, trials sometimes, people that have questionable morals, but it can also belong to the greatest of saints. But where it appears on a person's pinnacles, this is explaining and showing many of the external factors that are impacting his life. And as the 16, it would show that his earlier upbringing would bring him great challenge. Great challenge. Now, we all know, when you take a look at history and you look at his life, you will definitely see the challenges that he endured for the benefit of people now living today. People like myself and people of other ethnicities. When you take a close look and you see that this is affected by this 16/7 here, then it takes it to a whole nother level. And what it shows us is much of what he experienced, he agreed to. He agreed to this before he came to this planet. He took this on as a responsibility. He agreed knowing beforehand the things that he would have to experience. And that's the case with each of us before we come to this planet, before we incarnate. Having this thought in mind, assuming that we can relate to this perspective, it makes so much sense. Looking at the next pinnacle, immediately after he turned 35, he went straight into a master builder pinnacle, the master number 22. Leaving a legacy. And it was roughly 4 years later, at age 39, that he was actually assassinated. And this was in the 22nd pinnacle, the master number pinnacle, the number of legacy. And we see that now great statues and monuments are dedicated to him in many states, if not all. Every state that I've been to so far, I've been to states on the west side, on the west coast. I've been to states on the east coast, and from about every state that I've been to, there is at least one Martin Luther King street, one Martin Luther King Jr. street in every state that I've been to so far. So to have a street named after you, to have statues and monuments named after you, to have a day that's named after you. And this was the pinnacle that he passed on. It was in the pinnacle of the legacy. So that was a bit for Martin Luther King's pinnacle, his life path, his chart study. If you guys have any recommendations or suggestions of any celebrity or historic figure that you'd like to see, let me know in the message box. Stay tuned. We're going to be right back with Jessica Gillenwater. We're going to be talking about the art. Don't go nowhere. We'll be So we're back. This is Darius with Divine Numerology, and we have Jessica Gillenwater with us today as our special guest. And we were just at the Art Break Day, and we were offering our services there. And what it is, they are hosting that event. It's a nice little event for art awareness, and it's brought about by Joy Anisas, who has one of the shows that's dedicated to art on the station. And she was arranging it as a way to give back and to bring awareness of certain programs in the area, and just, a way of bridging the communities. And we found out about it, and we wanted to offer our services, our healing. Jessica was doing angelic Reiki healings there, and I was doing numerology readings there for people who were interested, and we were doing free readings there. We were just there for about an hour and a half. Then we had to come straight here so we could get started on the show. But yeah, we're just gonna talk about that, and what our experience was with people, and just kind of doing it free. It was interesting. It was awesome. It was fun. Thanks for being on the show, Jess.
Thanks.
And I don't normally call you Jess, but it just kind of came out. So what'd you think about today being over there?
I really, really liked it. I guess even doing things like that, like little art festivals, and just doing little fun things, especially kids. People don't realize how little things can help out people that are going through so much.
Right.
Yeah, so I think that's really, really cool. And I met some really cool people there. Yeah.
Who, you don't have to say names.
Yeah. Like I said, we did the readings and healings, so there were some people where I was just doing readings, any information I was picking up from them, and definitely meeting empaths. And I think everyone I met was like an empath, which is so funny, but it makes sense. And I was just telling, it's like, not to be afraid to use it, and it's a gift, because it's like kind of when you're not really in it, it's kind of like, whoa, what's happening? Right. And like that's how like I was like as a kid. I'm like, oh, what's happening? And for the longest time I didn't do anything about it. But like telling them, it's like, hey, like I'm hearing, like even going to the supermarket, and you could tell that someone's being sad, like they're sad, and you just compliment them, like, wow, you have a great sense of style, I really like your shirt. And that could twist someone's mood completely around. So I think if you could really pick up on how people feel and things like that, and even just throwing a compliment, it means a lot.
Well, so you mentioned the empaths. What was the number one thing that they found it challenging?
Cleansing themselves. Okay. They're like, how do I get rid of this? Because I'll be around someone that's incredibly negative and always angry and seeing the negative side of things. And then when I leave them, it stays with me. Sometimes I'm aware, like, oh, yeah, I remember talking to them, but then sometimes they might not remember, like, oh, just the other day. It's like, well, you didn't do anything to cleanse yourself, or they weren't aware that that was happening at a certain point. So lots of times what I suggest that I like in general is pink salt baths, sage, Palo Santo. Some people use candles. There's like a whole list of stuff. But me personally, I really like salt baths because I like baths.
So when it comes to cleansing, for our listeners, I keep saying for our readers, for our listeners out there who don't know exactly, the significance. Oh, what does salt do? What's this Palo Santo stuff, and what's this sage? What can we tell them a little bit about those? And how they can actually help them?
Well, I know salt, it gets rid of impurities. Even when you look at the physical, sometimes you have your feet hurt after a long day of work. They say, oh, put your feet in some salt water. That also takes care of on spiritual level. If you ever take a pink salt bath or other salts, if you take a bath for some time, usually I recommend like at least 20 minutes, depending on how heavy that feeling is, that you feel incredibly relaxed. And the physical properties are also really good. It makes your skin incredibly soft, and also balances pH levels. So it's great physical benefits and spiritual benefits.
So the salt, it not only helps the skin, not only does it cleanse us like our bodies, but it helps the skin look nice and supple and healthy.
Yeah, very soft.
What does it do for this thing that we call an aura?
Well, it definitely helps with cleansing, like I said, spiritually.
Okay.
So it helps remove any like lower energies.
Awesome. And then sage, it's like a herb that would be burned, and then that smoke has to do with cleansing the aura too. Is that about right too?
Yeah.
And then Palo Santo is, for those who didn't know, Palo Santo is a wood that comes from Peru, and it's a very high vibrational wood, and it has a unique smell. It smells incredible.
Yeah, it smells real. Like, you could ask him anytime we get it, I like hold it so it can stay lit for a long time, and then it goes out and I light it again. Like, it's like such a really good smell.
Yeah, it just feels really good, really refreshing. And best way to keep it lit is take a candle, hold that piece of wood to that candle, light it, and then let it go out, and then just run that Palo Santo smoke through your house, and just enjoy. And you'll feel the upliftment of the energy in your house. And
definitely.
Yeah, isn't it something when a person is burning Palo Santo or sage, that they do it around their physical body?
Yeah, sometimes people take a fan or a feather and like fan themselves in the back. So that's if they want to do it on themselves, and then also doing it in the house.
And that can help them to get those any negative lower energies off of them.
Yeah.
Because that's something that I noticed also downtown, because where the actual event took place, the Art Break Day actually took place at the homeless shelter. And that is, it was a great place to be having that event, because it brings people from many different diverse backgrounds and having all different stories. We weren't able to take care of everyone because our time was limited, but what we found was that there was just so many people affected by energies, affected by their sensitivities. Their auras were so big, so many light workers that are waiting to be that are already activated. Some people were there teaching me stuff that I didn't know, share with me, because I can always learn. We're always going to be learning.
Definitely.
But it was just so awesome seeing people from different backgrounds and just hearing their story. We spoke to a lot of the staff as well, and some of them had heard about numerology, had some ideas, but overall the entire event in itself was an eye-opener. I have a personal story with that, because with that shelter, because when I was much younger, that I had, me and my family, we actually benefited from services around that area. So, speaking to me in my past a little bit when I was younger. And so it was our way of giving, being able to give back what we have to offer.
Definitely.
So I know that the thing that stood out the most was so many empaths that we were talking to. I don't know if I asked this already. I'll have to look at the recording.
Okay.
But what was your favorite part?
I think it's kind of like people, like, because I was telling them, I was like, I know you pick up on things and this is how you're like feeling from it. And I'm kind of like telling them from what I'm hearing from my guys and just what I'm picking up. I'm like, you need to do more with it, because that's what you came here to do, to help people. And I know you want to help people.
Right.
And they're like, yeah, I want to help people. And I feel like I felt like there was a little boost after talking to them.
Their energy went up.
Yeah. So I think just kind of like, there was one person that's like, why aren't you doing it yet? Like, I was hearing guys like, you need to like get moving. Like, there's people that need you. It's like, also it's something that they want to do. like consciously want to do.
Yeah.
It's not just like, oh, I don't feel like it, you know, because sometimes we have things like that, you know, it's like we know that's something we need to do, but this is like, no, they genuinely want to do it to the core, like they know they need to do it.
Yeah.
So I was kind of there, it's like, well, like, it's like, kind of what more signs do you need? It's like, because you have it, like you have these gifts, so use it, because people need it, you know, especially now with all these things going on. And, you know, especially the shelter, people need stuff like that.
Especially after that eclipse.
Yeah, especially the eclipse, people are very on edge, and the energy's crazy. It's good, you know, but it's making people deal with their own stuff, which isn't always fun. But it's fun once you feel better, so.
And the growth that you experience from it.
Yeah, it's all positive, even though at times it might not feel like it.
What, now, so the number one thing that I noticed was, yes, we were talking to empaths. Yes, many of the people there were really wanting to figure out what they were feeling, why they were feeling it. But it seemed like they were really struggling with their levels of sensitivity. And they really wanted to know, after you shared with them how they could cleanse themselves, they really wanted to know how they could protect themselves. And one of the things that I had recommended to them was a stone called black tourmaline. Besides black tourmaline, are there any other ways that people can protect themselves if they're empaths?
Yeah, I think well, the ways that I like to is the whole Archangel Michael doing protection, and also asking your spirit guides to protect you, so that way you're not bombarded with so many things. And also as an empath, you know, you'll still pick up on other people's stuff, but it won't necessarily attach to you. So having that protection. So I'll notice times where I'll have the protection, I'll still feel people's stuff. I'm like, oh, this person's really upset, or they're very happy, whatever it may be, but it won't like stay with me. And then, you know, there are times, you know, you might forget, you know, so doing that cleanse also. And also anything that it could just be your own stuff, because you could be pretty sensitive. So it's like, oh, hey, I'm dealing with this, so cleansing your own things are really good too. And I always recommend the salt bath.
So with the protection, yeah, bats, yeah. Bats, you cannot. Yeah, the bats are awesome. They feel good. They just do. With the protection, it was really interesting when you said that you use the Dome of Protection with Michael the Archangel.
Yeah.
And it means that you have this protection, but you still feel the energy of others, but you said it doesn't attach to you.
That's what I'm noticing for myself. It won't attach. So if I go home, I'm not like, oh, like this on me, I need to get it off. But I'll notice, like, I'll feel what the other person feels. I'm like, oh, okay. Like, over time, it got much easier. Like, if somebody's feeling so, I'm like, okay, they feel that way. And then it won't overwhelm me like it would it before. 'Cause before I was like, oh my gosh, like, what's happening?
Right.
Like, this is too much. But it gets better over time, practicing.
And just using that. Now, did it feel weird or awkward using that form of protection right away when you first started using it, or was it?
I don't know. To me,
like
it
natural?
didn't seem like it, because I think before I would use more, like, more tangible things. So, like salt, like more physical material things. And now I'm like, man, it's okay. It's like, I don't have to, oh, I forgot this at home. It's like, no, man, just Dome of Protection. I'm cool.
Yeah.
So, I mean, whatever makes people more comfortable. Some people want that crystal. They want to feel it in their hands. And some are just like, no, I don't want to carry anything around. So it kind of depends on what each person is into.
Makes a lot of sense. So it's basically, there's not one right or wrong way to do it. If the stone works for you, great. If it doesn't, great. If the dome of protection works, something that is not tangible, you'll definitely notice it. You'll definitely notice it when you um, call it. And if you want to know how to invoke that, you can actually message Jessica and she can explain how that can be done. Because she is an angelic Reiki master, and that's one of the things that she helps people to learn is how to protect themselves from these entities, these forces that are really trying to suffocate the light workers of our time. We're gonna go right to a quick break, and when we come back, we're gonna finish up with a few more of the things we saw today at the Art Break Day, and we got a little bit of announcement also, and we'll be right back. So don't go anywhere. Cool. So we are right back, and this is Divine Numerology with Darius Oliver. We are doing our little conclusion for the day, and I want to just finish it off. Me and Jessica, we had an awesome day at the Art Break Fest. It was incredible. The people we spoke to were beautiful people.
Definitely.
It was a beautiful experience. Want to talk a little bit about the number of the day before we head out. Today is the 1st of September, and it's a 1 day. If you happen to be born on a day like this, then your overall life path would be a 2. You would have a 2 life path. and it would actually be coming from 11, which is a master number. So you would be an illuminator of this world, a light worker. So to those babies that are born today, or to you if your birthday is today, then continue to be straightforward in how you communicate, because you're a 1, and enjoy this month, enjoy this day. Everyone have an awesome day and an awesome weekend. We are going to be at Unity, the Church of Unity, right after this, doing a workshop starting at 6 to 9. 1 hour workshop. If you guys want a reading, we're going to be doing readings right afterward. So we hope to see you soon. Everyone have an awesome weekend, and peace.
Bye.